Well, it's one of the great cliches of football that while you certainly can't win a title early in the season, you can definitely lose one. And here, as we enter the third round of the NPL Victoria season, two traditional foes, Oakleigh Cannons and South Melbourne, a Greek derby. You can see the mascots waving the Greek flags. Will continue their efforts to get out of the blocks quickly and afford their 2020 NPL Victoria campaigns a solid foundation. It's a nice night here in Melbourne South East, as the Cannons will be looking to make it 3 wins from 3 under head coach Chris Taylor, who will, for the third time, take up a position across the dugout from the side he took to 2 premierships, a Doherty Cup, and in a game against his current employers, the 2016 NPL Victoria Championship. His formidable squad, led by 2019 gold medalist Joe Guest, have downed heavyweights Avondale FC in the season's opening rounds, and you just know they'll be eager to add another high-profile scalp in the form of Hellas tonight. After going down to Heidelberg United in the opening round of the 2020 campaign, South steadied their ship last week with a 5-2 shellacking of newly promoted Eastern Lions off the back of a hat-trick from towering striker Harrison Sawyer. And you just know that South will be keen to well and truly establish their bona fides against the Cannons team, tipped for big things in the year ahead. My name is Joey Lynch, getting set to call all the action from Jack Edwards Reserve for you on this Friday night, and it's my absolute pleasure to be joined in the grandstand tonight by the corner flags, Damir Kulash. Damir, welcome.
Pleasure to be here, Joey, as it always is when two great teams are playing against one another, particularly for a massive Greek derby like this one is. We had one last week in the Friday night fixture between the Oakleigh Cannons and Heidelberg United, and I reckon this one has topped that one off already. I reckon the crowd's at least double that, so we might be in store for a crowd in excess of 2,000, maybe even bumpering on 3. We've got Greek legend Georgios Katagounis as a special guest tonight, and we've got a great game of football in store. Oakleigh 2 from 2, as you mentioned, and South Melbourne with a resounding win to, I guess, kick away the disappointment of round one's 3-0 home loss to Heidelberg. It's going to be a big one tonight. Joey, predictions?
Well, you know me, Damir, I'm never one for predictions because I never like to look the fool, but what I'll be hoping for tonight is just a cracking game of football. We'll take you through the starting lineups as festivities still continue. You can hear the doof-doof dance beat coming through the speakers ahead of the game. Feels like I'm down at Alhambra, rest in peace. So starting in goal for South Melbourne, the visitors, we've got Piers Clark, and in front of him, number 2, Amadou Karoma, number 5, Jake Marshall, number 7, Chris Irwin, number 8, Luke Pavlou, number 9, Harrison Sawyer, number 11, Brad Norton, number 14, Liram Almazi, number 22, Daniel Clark, number 45, Jerry Salados, and number 57, Stefan Folan. For the hosts, in goal, number 1, Nick Feely, and in front of him, Tom Matthews, Scott Robertson, Ryan Pachowski, Tyson Holmes, Joe Guest, Hamish Miller, Harry White, Lucas Bortelli, Matthew Fascini, and number 28, Joe Knowles. Damir, 2 strong sides. Who should the fans be looking out for tonight?
I think for Oakleigh Cannons, Joe Guest, the reigning gold medalist, is the player to watch. Great start to the season, 2 in 2 games, and also a pivotal clincher last week in what was ultimately the winner against Heidelberg. He assisted, so he's definitely a player to watch. For South Melbourne, I guess the big man to watch out for is Harrison Sawyer, coming off the back of a hat-trick. He's got some A-League experience as well with the Newcastle Jets, as well as a stint overseas with Millwall. So Harrison Sawyer is definitely one player to keep an eye on.
Yes, and fans, eagle-eyed fans and sharp fans will have noted that the sides are unchanged from their games last week. As we mentioned, Oakleigh getting their second big scalp in a row in round 2 against Heidelberg, while South Melbourne getting their first win of the season at Lakeside Stadium over Eastern Lions. So it will be the Cannons getting set to get us kicked off here, standing over the ball. Your referees for today's game, referee Christopher Hope, his assistants Yoav Fisher and Asterios Sakalis. Fourth official is Adam Bavkar, and the match commissioner is Paul Mantas. So as we're still getting more photos down there on the sidelines, the game has kicked off and the Cannons will try to boot this ball long early, headed straight back by South Melbourne. Ball is played across there by Oakleigh, looking into the box, looking in the direction of White, but it's going to be cleared by South. Chance to get a first touch for Sawyer. Cleaned up by the Cannons. That's Holmes on the ball. Former title winner with South Melbourne. Quickly getting in there and stealing the ball away is Daniel Clark. First chance on the ball for Nick Feely. Demir, it should be an interesting contest because, of course, the Cannons, of course, they've got Chris Taylor in the dugout, a former South member, but a lot of former South players running around out there on the field as well.
Yeah, and it's important to note that since the Oakleigh Cannons hired Chris Taylor, they haven't lost to South Melbourne, and it's been 3 league games, comprehensive wins for the Oakleigh Cannons. Most of them have been, in fact, all of them, if you look at the score lines, 4-1, 2-0 and 4-1 again last year. So that decision to fire Chris Taylor has definitely proved to be a costly decision for South Melbourne, both on the field and off the field, if you've read the recent reports, of course.
Maybe touch on that later. It's a big contest. Sawyer tries to get it, but he can't get it. Ball is pinballing around, and it eventually will be Pavlou that gives away the free kick for the healthy shove. Taken quickly, well, attempted to be taken quickly by his opposite number, Tyson Holmes. Instead, he'll just hand the ball across to Fashini. Fashini will attempt to chip the ball down the touchline. However, the linesman raises their flag for the game's first offside. As Demir mentioned earlier, a very healthy crowd out here in Melbourne's southeast.
I'd say we're definitely pushed over the 2,000 mark, but as is the case sometimes in South Melbourne, we might need a crowd counter for that one, and I'm sure there's one in attendance somewhere here tonight.
Very cheeky from my co-caller, as Robertson just watches that ball go out for his side to have a throw-in. Pachowski tries to flick the ball on. White can't win the ball. And that calling for the foul there is Clark. Daniel Clark, one of 2 Clarks on the field for South Melbourne. And referee Christopher Hope answers his calls. And Almazi gets us back underway. Almazi looping the ball up the field, looking for the diminutive Salados. He can't come down with it, but now it's Clark. But Clark's ball is picked out there by Fashini. And Fashini will allow the Cannons to break, looking for Joe Guest. One of the first touches on the ball for Guest, but the reigning gold medalist can't control it either. And it is the other Clark, Pierce Clark, that collects for South Melbourne. Headed clear by Portelli. Keeping it away from his former Melbourne City Youth teammate, Jerry Salados. 2 players that came up in the academy under then academy boss, Joe Palitzidis.
You've seen both those players in action. What can you tell us about both Portelli and Salados? Obviously, we know a bit more about Salados given the fact that he is the reigning NPL rising star after being a standout for South Melbourne in quite a bleak season last campaign. But Lucas Portelli has come through from Langwarrin in NPL 2. Tell us a bit about the attributes of both those players, Joey.
Well, Lucas Portelli, he is a very tall bloke, so he does have some good touch on the ball. But have you seen there? Didn't come off for him that time, but Lucas Portelli is one. He absolutely loves pinging these long balls forward, these long diags forward. He loves a sliding challenge as well from memory. Remember watching some of the games he was with at Melbourne City Youth and sometimes frustrating the coaching staff with his predilection for sliding across the ball as Karoma tries to get the ball through up forward, but it's going to be an offside call, the first of the game for South Melbourne. Sawyer unable to time his run to support Amadou Karoma. But yes, Portelli, excellent central defender, left Melbourne City in search of more game time and winded up, as you said, with Scott Miller down at Langwarrin in the NPL 2. Now making the step up to the big time in Victorian football in 2020. As that ball will roll long for a goal kick to South Melbourne. And there are some other games happening around the league at present, so we'll around NPL Victoria and indeed the A-League as well, and we will endeavour to update you on those throughout the night. Once the Football 24 app comes back to life, but now we will wait for Pierce Clark to get us going. Well-travelled Pierce Clark boots the ball up forward. Sawyer's not going to get under that one. Bit of a battle there in the middle. Joe Guest can't win it down, and instead Karoma's got room to burst into on the right flank. Plays it forward to Sawyer. Sawyer can't bring it down. Gets it back. Karoma trying to put the ball into the area, but Hamish Miller getting across and denying the South right back, who's been getting up the touchline early. But it will be a corner kick here for the visitors. Salados standing over it. He's got Daniel Clark in support, doesn't use him, instead puts it into the basket. Sawyer trying to get there, couldn't. Ball is still live, however. Cannons eventually boot the ball clear. Irwin trying to chase it down, but he's not going to be able to get there before Pachowski, who tries to knock it up the touchline, but can only put it out for a throw-in, but a chance for Oakleigh to reset and defend.
Speaking of corner kicks, Joey, Blake Carpenter has given Avondale a 1-0 lead away to Green Gully with an Olympico, a goal direct from a corner kick.
Absolute Christine Nairn areas there from Avondale. There's another long throw-in into the box. Salados goes down. Faint, half-hearted appeals from some of the South players, but no doing. And instead it's going to be well done by Chris Irwin to chase that ball down and put it out for a throw-in. So yeah, Salados going down there. Of course, instantly recognisable on the pitch is Jerry Salados, both for his diminutive frame and his headgear. One of the rising stars of NPL Victoria. Did briefly trial with the Newcastle Jets at some point last year, but thankfully for fans of South Melbourne, will continue to run around NPL Victoria fields for a little while ahead. Battle in the midfield now as Oakleigh trying to get the ball out, but they're being pinned back by South. Eventually Norton's going to get that ball and whip it in. Headed clear by Miller, only as far as Karoma. Pavlu trying to reset. He'll get the ball forward, looking for Irwin. It's a Norton on the left. Ball is whipped in towards the back post. Ball probably intended for the back post, but it's going to go long, and it will be a goal kick for Nick Feely.
And as there always is between these two teams, an aura of familiarity, given the number of players on both sides who have played for the opposition. We saw one man just get a touch moments ago, and Luke Pavlu, who was at South Melbourne initially, spent last season at the Oakleigh Cannons, or spent the last year and a half at the Oakleigh Cannons before returning to South Melbourne in the off-season. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of game he has tonight up against the former gold medalist and South Melbourne player in Tyson Holmes, who had a long association with the Bentley Greens until he's moved to Jacket Reserve this off-season.
Now Knowles getting a touch, but he's going to be forced to play it all the way back to Scott Robertson. Portelli gets it out to Matthews, and Matthews is just going to whip that ball forward, but Holmes can't get there. Battle in the middle. Guest dropping deep, looking for the ball. Knowles going on a run, but he's going to be brought down. But no free kick, according to referee Christopher Hope. Holmes can't keep the ball in. And it's going to be a throw into the visiting South Melbourne. Karoma fixing his socks and heading over to take it. Had a good start to the game, has the South Melbourne right back, who himself is returned to Lakeside Stadium after 2-year stint at Port Melbourne. Of course, a title winner with South back in 2016. Intercepted by Knowles, a very nice turn from them, from the attacker. Now he's bursting forward, men in support. Pachowski gets the ball across to Matthews, then he'll get it back. Fierce pressure from South though, not allowing Oakleigh to get settled. Portelli, neat little turn to avoid Sawyer. Oakleigh working it across. Miller. Well, Miller ran himself into a bit of pressure there, was forced to knock it long and eventually put it out for a goal kick.
Of course, Hamish Miller, he might not have played at South Melbourne, but his family is no stranger to South Melbourne, given the fact that his brother Matt was a vital component of Chris Taylor's championship-winning South Melbourne sides over the course of 3 seasons, and up until he got that move to the A-League, where he's been impressive ever since.
Indeed, Matt Miller was with Central Coast. And then engineer to move to the Newcastle Jets as healthy shove there is waved away by the referee. Sawyer playing the hold-up man, nods it down to Salados. Salados gives that to Irwin to chase. Can he get there? Well, he does slide in, and he maybe gives Tom Matthews the heebie-jeebies a little bit, but eventually it's rolled out. And another chance for Nick Feely, son of former Gillingham and Sheffield Wednesday goalkeeper Peter Feely, to take the goal kick. See everybody getting forward for Oakleigh. That one was always going long. And it's only gone down as far as Salados. Sawyer can't time his run. Eventually he gets back and he's clipped over by Portelli. And referee Christopher Hope is pulling out what looks to potentially be a red card here. It is! Lucas Portelli, in a devastating early blow to the Oakleigh Cannons, has brought down Harrison Sawyer on the break. And the Cannons, disastrously for Chris Taylor, are going to be forced to play the rest of this game with 10 men, Demir.
Big call from referee Chris Sawyer, but I will say he was in the best position to make that call, and you can only assume that Harrison Sawyer was clear through on goal up until that foul by Lucas Portelli, with no hope of another Oakleigh Cannons defender getting towards the ball and challenging Sawyer. So it's a big advantage to South Melbourne. Can they make the most of it now? I'm sure Oakleigh will be preparing to bring on the former South Melbourne captain Ramat Tavsan-Chioglu from the bench, but for now South Melbourne will take this free kick.
Indeed, and we saw in round one, as we'll briefly pause as Folan stands over it, whips in a left-footed effort that takes a deflection and then goes out for a corner kick. But Oakleigh Cannons in round one were the recipients of a red card call against Avondale when Stefan Zinni was sent off for a high boot. And that really put them in the box seat to record a win over the Avengers. Now we'll have to test Chris Taylor's side, and with a red card in the 12th minute to their young centre-back Lucas Portelli. It's Jerry Salados standing over it, whips the ball into the middle, headed away at the near post, and referee Christopher Hope has seen something he doesn't like. Free kick for the Cannons. Harrison Sawyer, well, he scored a first half free kick against the Eastern Lions. First half hat-trick, against the Eastern Lions last week, and now it's his run that has forced a challenge from Portelli that reduced the hosts to 10 men. So South's towering number 9 already paying dividends as that ball is lobbed forward in the direction of White, but it's headed clear, coming straight back. But South, who have had the better of this game so far, can collect and come again. Karoma gets it forward to Sawyer. Sawyer is forced to turn around and just play the ball back to Clark, who's going to whip a ball in the direction of Salados, headed clear. You can briefly see that Matthews has gone into the middle. Knocked forward in the direction of White, but he can't chase it down as Marshall clears. Trying times here for the Cannons. Feely instructing his boys to move up and then just boots it long once again. The long ball has been on the agenda for the Cannons so far in this one. And that appears to be Brad Norton down there on the left flank, who's taken a bit of a heavy knock.
Yeah, Brad Norton, longest serving player at South Melbourne, been there since 2012 when his former Northcote manager Gus Salakis brought him to the club. Of course, Gus himself, a former coach of both these two teams. And his opposite number, Tommy Matthews, also featured for South Melbourne up until midway through the 2013 season, where both him and Salakis left the club under contentious circumstances, and that brought in the era of Chris Taylor, which proved to be a highly successful era for the club. Their most successful, arguably, since the great NSL heyday of Ange Postecoglou and his championship-winning teams in the late 90s.
course, Ange Postecoglou, a man whose resume needs no pumping up. Everything he's accomplished, one of Australian football's greatest exports. As South get us going once again, this time content to play out from the back. You can see towards the near side, the grandstand side, Karoma getting forward once again. And he's going to receive the ball now from Almazi. Running into space, but a strong challenge comes in from Pachowski. South can reload and look to punish the hosts with their one-man disadvantage. Almazi, he's just forced to turn around and play it all the way back to Clark. It's a Norton who looks to have shaken off the earlier knock. Now you can see, potentially you can see there in the Cannons line, and it appears as though Pachowski has gone into left back, Miller has gone to right back, and Matthews has gone into centre back for now. Now whether or not that is a temporary solution for the Cannons until they can warm up a substitute or not remains to be seen, but that is how they are rolling for now. So opting to retain a four-man backline early on in this contest. Of course, scores still are Oakleigh 0, South Melbourne 0. Almazi coming under pressure there and just does enough to get it forward to Karoma, that then flicks it on. Instead it's going to be the Cannons coming away with it, chance for them to work in transition, but South getting back quickly to clear the danger. Headed forward by Matthews. Norton tries to play it back forward, sliding across is Irwin. Quickly taken throw in by the Cannons. Battling for on the left flank, and eventually Chris Irwin comes away with it, but challenge once again comes in from the Cannons. Back and forth football here. Very entertaining contest. Just gradually leapfrogging the ball up the field. Oh, the Cannons taking their time with it. With that one-man disadvantage, they'll be quite content to slow this game out and conserve energy. Knowles can't win the ball cleanly. So it's a battle in there. Folan eventually gives away what looks to be the corner kick. So nominally a chance for Oakleigh to get some tall timber forward for the set piece. However, their tallest timber, Lucas Portelli, received an early bath for a late clipping challenge on the heels of South Melbourne number 9 Harrison Sawyer. And now maybe that one-man advantage coming true, as you can see every player for South back to defend this one. Ball played into the middle and it's flicked away by a South defender. Clark had come to give it a big strong punch, but defender got in the way, so instead it'll be another Cannon corner.
And when you're down one man, set pieces always provides you with a good opportunity to get yourself a goal, and I'm sure Oakleigh will be looking for that at this moment.
Now the ball is whipped into the area, free header there for South to clear the ball away, and now Salados has to try to chase it down against Hamish Miller. Hamish Miller just lobs it forward in the direction of Fashini. Fashini going to work, but he can't. Irwin does well. Quickly had Norton coming in for support, and the South Melbourne veteran will win a throw-in for his side. Looking to switch the ball up again. Almazi's got all the time in the world. He could have a picnic if he wants to, but instead he's just going to play it back to his partner Jake Marshall, and then Marshall didn't, well, not the best pass in the world, but they'll get away with it. Now Irwin coming forward out there on the left flank. He's got Sawyer in the middle, looks to find him. Cleared away there by Robertson. Guest plays it back and then looped forward by Fashini. Cannons, however, can't collect it. Now this is a good chance for South Melbourne. Clark plays it to Karoma. Low ball in from the south right back. Cleared away by Oakleigh. Pressure, however, continues to build from Hellas. Clark and Karoma knocking it between themselves. Eventually they'll play it back into the middle to Pavlu. Pavlu and Folan playing between each other. Karoma wants it on the right. Instead, Pavlu goes short to Daniel Clark. Almazi trying to scream at them to increase the pace, and then he'll carry the ball forward. Tries to play it in the direction of Clark. Gets a second dig at it, but his pass is poor. Perhaps intended for Sawyer. Went behind him, and instead Clark will collect, and then he'll just tease Salados before picking the ball up. Pachowski, who's gone into defence since the red card. And it appears as though, Demir, that no substitutes being prepared for Oakleigh, so it looks as though Pachowski will be playing left back for at least the next little while.
And left back is a position he often found himself playing at last season, particularly early on in the campaign. He's, of course, more known as a forward, won a couple of Golden Boots in State League 1 with Mornington, scored the winning goal in the Doherty Cup final for the Bentley Greens against Green Gully back in 2016. But for Oakleigh, goals have been harder to come by. Only got the one goal last season. He's already equalled it so far this campaign by scoring the first goal of this season. So Pachkowski, when he is playing forward, can be a danger, particularly when he's combining with his compatriots Harry White and Joe Guest.
Isn't that the ball now in his hands? Ken's trying to get something going. Knocked into the area by Knowles. Big header comes in from the south defence. It's a scramble, and eventually it's going to be a free kick for the visitors. Brief flash of danger, cut short by the whistle of Christopher Hope.
Not only have we got a big contingent of supporters here on show tonight, but we've also got a pretty big media contingent with various Greek papers out here. Of course, the stream happening, and keep your comments coming through in the comment section. We are live and interactive. Also got the photographers, one of the best in the business, Smile for Peter over there by the touchline. So
we'll briefly pause with Joel Knowles. He's going to win his free kick for his side in a dangerous position on the right flank.
It's definitely a very good player, Joe Knowles. Got another goal last week. He's obviously a player that they brought across from Perth, and he has prior A-League experience with the Perth Glory. So he's definitely one to watch. But yeah, it's great to see more promotion of the game, and particularly fixtures like this, because if clubs like South Melbourne, maybe even Oakleigh, are serious about professionalism and maybe being part of a second tier, tonight's a great night to showcase exactly why they deserve their place in that proposed second tier.
See now, and I think that is Pachowski out there getting set to whip this ball in to the penalty area. Tom Matthews coming up from defence, stands next to the goals. It's a long free kick really in the direction of no one. And Folan is just quite happy to watch that just trickle out for a South Melbourne ball.
Folan, one of South Melbourne's big off-season acquisitions, a player with professional or semi-professional experience back home in the Republic of Ireland, and he, although initially I assumed he was going to be starting in the centre of defence, he has provided a formidable force as a holding midfielder.
Indeed, Folan, 27-year-old centre-back, signed from Dundalk FC. One-time former Newcastle United youth. Of the Toon man, playing for that Toon.
And in recent seasons, that has meant that Dundalk has been a fixture on the European scene, whether it's Champions League qualifiers or Europa League group stage matches. Folan has himself immersed himself in those competitions. So he's definitely got a bit of quality on him.
As we see, Karoma has been very busy. He's gone down there in a heap under the challenge from Pachowski. Karoma is making himself a right nuisance on that flank for the Cannons. Pachowski goes into the book for a yellow card. And you would have to say, Demir, that if you were picking out best on ground based upon the early showings, that Amadou Karoma probably a good shout.
Yeah, he's a steady presence at right back. He's had a number of seasons in the top flight of Victorian football across a number of clubs. I think it was back in 2011. He first moved to Victoria from Tasmania, where he briefly featured for the Melbourne Knights, played for the likes of St Albans, but really found a home in NPL Victoria at the likes of Port Melbourne, Green Gully, and also a stint in the third tier in State 1 with Altona Magic a few years ago. But he's back at South. It's his second spell, and I'm sure he's out here to make that right back spot his own after a season in which Perry Lambropoulos struggled to fill the void left by championship winner Tim Marler.
Indeed, and I just caught sight of his quads there when his shorts were rolled up. Absolutely massive. Definitely a man that does his squats.
I think he's a personal trainer by trade, Joey, so he's got no excuses.
Absolutely massive. It's now South with the ball on the left flank. It was on the left flank, but once again they'll be looking to switch it. South have been pushing their fullbacks high in this one. See, really, when they're going forward, it seems as though Folan is dropping back into maybe forming a three-man backline as Karoma and Norton burst up the touchline. And as we say, as if on cue, it's Karoma getting forward again, playing a bit of combination play with Salados, trying to get the ball in, but it's charged down by Robertson. However, it will be a corner kick. And now a chance for the likes of Sawyer and Almazi and Folan to get up there and try to get their head on what would be the opening goal of this contest. Salados delivers it towards the near post, headed away, but it's only going to go as far as Pavley, who's got to wind up. Left-footed effort charged down. Clark, another chance to whip it in towards a back post. Once again headed clear by the Cannons. Guest trying to chase it down. Comes off his chest, and then he's going to go down like a sack of potatoes under the challenge, but he wins a free kick. So Cannons can breathe once again. And maybe a bit of movement on the Cannons bench as well. Perhaps that yellow card to Pachowski giving Chris Taylor some pause for thought. The last thing you want to do if you are the Oakleigh head coach is see your side go down to 9 men. But now they're getting forward for yet another long ball out from Feely.
Look, if the Oakleigh Cannons want some inspiration, it was only, 3 years ago that Heidelberg United went down to 10 men at home against the North Geelong Warriors when they were up 1-0 and somehow still ended up winning the game 8-0. So it can be done where your numerical disadvantage doesn't hurt you, but it's going to take a mammoth effort where they're going to really have to not only do their jobs and do their jobs quite well, each individual player, but also make sure that they're quite prolific when they do get those opportunities in front of goal, because it's all about making sure that they have the right conversion when the players get themselves in that position.
And apologies for reopening any wounds, Warriors fans. As Almazi will work the ball across to Marshall. As it's half-time in one of the other games. Demira with an update.
Yeah, it's 2-0 to Avondale. I'll get you the scorer in a few moments, but if that scoreline stays the same, or if the result stays the same, it's a shocking start for Green Gully. One of last season's success stories. They could be starting off with 0-3, having had 2 home games and a relatively, you could say, easy away fixture in what is, I think, the shortest trip in NPL Victorian football, a visit to St Albans, where they ended up on the back of a 4-2 defeat. Saw one of their key players, Jonathan Booness, suspended for 11 games for pushing a referee, so bad start for Green Gully.
Knowles going to work on the left, plays the ball in, headed clear. Pachowski and Sawyer battle for it, and Sawyer does enough to get it onto Salados. Riding challenges is Salados. He tried to get the ball forward to Clark, however the pressure too much. And the Cannons can try to come away, but Sawyer's not going to give them any peace in doing so. He's been very energetic early as the big man. Folan just swings a big left boot at and get it forward once again. Oh, that's going to be a free kick, is it? No, it's not. Irwin's going to come away with it and then knock it forward for Sawyer, but Sawyer has wandered into an offside position. He has been given licence by the South Bench to try to get in behind this Cannons defence and run and try to get in through the channels, but Demir just once or twice so far today offside at the vital moment.
Yeah, and after his hat-trick last week, I'm sure Oakleigh would have prepared themselves well for the threat that Harrison Sawyer does carry. And I think I got myself mistaken in intro by saying he's previously been at Millwall, because I think that's his former Newcastle Jets teammate Christian Bemora, who's over at Green Gully. Sawyer himself has had a lot of success in Southeast Asia in recent seasons, where he's scored goals for fun, particularly in Hong Kong.
Indeed, the big man signing this season from Tai Po in Hong Kong. Has also been with the Newcastle Jets and Brisbane Roar in his still young career. Only 23 years old, but now it's the Cannons with a chance to go forward, and that's looped into the area, but there's nobody waiting for it in a blue shirt. Knowles, however, will try to get things going once again, but that's going to take a touch. Will across, and Irwin has a chance to run once again. He's been energetic on that left flank. However, that pass is poor, and Hamish Miller is just going to watch it go over the touchline.
Got some comments coming through. Dimitri is saying VAR for that red card decision. Hopefully, we don't see any of VAR in Victorian football, because there's enough conspiracy theories rolling around. As it is, I'm sure we wouldn't want to see any more being issued out. But Paul saying good crowd. Mitch, heavy watch. Ari, come on, Hellas.
Keep your comments coming. As we said, we are live, and now Sawyer, stop me if you've heard this one before. The big man's offside. Of course, one imagines that he will keep making those runs because he can be offside several times, but he only needs to be onside once for that vital breakthrough to come. And Feely, signed from Pascoe in the off-season, standing over the ball and boots it long once again. Big pack forms, nobody can bring it down. Guest heads it back. He was looking for Knowles, but Almazi gets across to put the ball into the touchline. Pachowski. Not a lot of time or space in there for the Cannons, as one would expect with a one-man disadvantage. They'll be forced to go all the way back to Robertson. Matthews. You can see this press of South Melbourne. They're immediately out and not giving the Cannons any peace. Long ball forward in the direction of Knowles, but Knowles was in an offside position, inducing the linesman to raise his flag on the touchline. Folan gets it forward in the direction of Salados. Salados will, however, lose it. Now Holmes trying to pull the strings. He'll slide the ball across to Guest. Guest will try to tee up a shot, but it's blocked away by two South Melbourne defenders. Chance perhaps now in transition for Koroma if he can get out and run. Guest, though, the motor on Joe Guest, preventing the quick break, and that's a poor pass. Salados trying to get back and get in front of Holmes. Instead it rolls towards Irwin. Out to Norton on the left. Norton, first attempt is blocked. Forced instead to go back to Folan. Marshall to Almazi. Salados dropping deep to receive the ball, and now he can face goal, chipping the ball over the top. Headed clear by the Cannons. Guest. He can't bring it down. Eventually falls to Pavlu. Salados with a bit of time to operate in. Salados will pull the trigger from range and just flash it wide off the post there, but danger signs of what Salados can do when he's afforded space.
Yeah, just didn't have the direction there, Jerry Salados. Got himself on the score sheet a handful of times last campaign. Still, I think while the consensus is that he is a highly talented player, I still think that South Melbourne have probably underutilised his strengths, because he can definitely give teams a lot of trickery, and I think that if he was potentially in an environment where he's better suited and his strengths are more brought out, he can definitely succeed, because I still think with him you see a lot of hit and miss for a highly talented player, and I don't necessarily think it's always on him. I think sometimes the system around him at South Melbourne just isn't working.
This ball is now played forward by Robertson.
And I think it does pose an interesting question of, whether we see sometimes his best football when Marcus Schroen is out of the side, because they are two familiar players, albeit Salados is a bit more of an advanced attacking midfielder, whereas we have seen Marcus Schroen deployed in that position throughout the majority of his South career, but last season he played more of a box-to-box midfielder, and while I think that can work for South Melbourne, they really do need a comprehensively good holder to keep the glue in midfield, and that's probably what they struggled with last year, South Melbourne, because they utilised a number of players there, whether it was the likes of Melvin Beckett, Keenan Gibson, and earlier on in the season, Kostas Stradamitros, that did also deputise in central defence a number of times throughout the course of 2019.
Feels there for a handball by both the South players and the South crowd, but they're not going to get it. White forced to play the hold-up role. Ball looped forward, looking for Guest, who just takes off and then hurls himself to the turf. The second he felt a shred of contact from Almazi, ignored by the referee, and Almazi comes away with the ball. He got it to Clark. Clark will get it back from Sawyer. Playing it out there on the left flank to Norton. Norton's cross goes straight into the guts of Hamish Miller. And that's a poor clearance because it went straight into Holmes. However, Cannons will get away with that one. Holmes now plays it to White and then skids the ball across the field looking for Guest. Guest is very quick, but Almasi, well-timed sliding challenge, comes away with it to applause from the South fans. And now the central defender, well, he doesn't know what to do. He's running forward into time and space. He gives it to Salados. Salados against Pachowski on the right. Holds himself up, does Salados, tries to whip it in, but Pachowski just sticks a leg out, and it's going to be a throw-in.
Despite conceding 5 goals over the course of their opening 2 games, one player who has earned numerous plaudits for South Melbourne has been Liran Almazi, who was the summer signing from the Altona Magic in what was his first full season of top-flight football, and he certainly impressed for Goran Loznovski's men, and he'll be hoping to do the same at Lakeside Stadium in 2020, and he's off to a great start, and that tackle that you saw moments ago is just an example of the quality that he has.
Now Irwin there, you can see just how high the fullbacks are getting when he works it to Norton. Back to Irwin. Almazi calling for the ball on the right flank. Instead it goes to Marshall first, but eventually goes to the newly signed South defender. The triangle work. Salados will try to flick it over, but Pachowski chests it down. Holmes looking for Guest, but Almazi once again sliding in. Holmes feints and eventually plays the ball forward for Harry White. Harry White, like a spawning salmon, leaping over the challenge, but eventually it's play on, and eventually it comes to Salados. He'll play it back to Pavlu in time and space, and then Pavlu will just pause again and play it backwards to Folan. So, cleared away by the Cannons.
Good to see you deployed some Harperisms, and I have had confirmation from NPL Victoria commentator and the Corner Flags Chris Gleeson that he feels that it was a straight red, having watched it on...
Because ball came in there from Salados in the direction of Harrison Sawyer, just unable to get his shot on target, and it will be a heart-stopping goal kick there for the Cannons.
Yeah, sorry for almost stealing your thunder, Joey, but Chris Gleeson has watched the replays of that red card incident, and he has confirmed that it was a clear goal-scoring opportunity and a great decision by referee Chris Hope. So we often criticise officials when they do get things wrong, but when they do make the right call, they also deserve our plaudits. So great start to his 2020, having served as a fourth official in the opening 2 rounds, Chris Hope.
Yeah, you've been talking about VAR before. It sounds as though we do have somebody in the VAR booth for NPL Victoria, but I digress. Cannon's ball. Get the ball to Holmes in the middle of the park. Holmes once again tries to thread a ball in behind the defence, but the South back 4 holding strong. Knowles. Strong challenge comes in, and now South afforded a chance to break forward quickly. Instead, they'll be forced to build from the back once again. Almazi. Karoma. Clever little attempt from Salados. Doesn't come up, though. And now, chance for the Cannons to burst forward quickly. Guest. Looping crossfield ball in the direction of Knowles. Headed clear by Folan. And the Irishman watches it over the line for a Cannons throw-in, taken quickly by Knowles. Ball comes into the middle of the field for Guest, standing over the ball. Gets across to White. White takes a ping, but it's going to go well wide of the goals. And not the most threatening of attacks there from Oakleigh.
I guess if you're South Melbourne, the one thing that you can't do is be complacent. Just because you do have the numerical advantage, you shouldn't rest on your laurels, because Oakleigh Cannons do have the attack to hurt you. Both Joe Guest and Harry White got into double figures last season after that slow start, where particularly White, for the first half of the season, he was contending with former South Melbourne marksman Milos Lloyd for a starting role. But come the second half of the season, he was one of the league's hottest strikers, and he can definitely hurt you if you do give him the time, the space and the opportunity.
Indeed, Harry White, who signed a 3-year contract extension ahead of 2020, formerly on the books of Barnsley, has the Englishman been, so a bit of talent there. Now Amazi on the right flank. We'll just play it back into the middle for Jake Marshall. One of the many Queenslanders now plying their trade down here in Victoria is Marshall. Signed from the Brisbane Strikers. That ball across the field to Karoma. Nice little cushion touch off the thigh. Plays a ball in. Headed clear by Matthews. Oakleigh are trying to break, but there's just, with the one-man disadvantage, they're having trouble just getting forward in requisite numbers, but they've got another opportunity here. However, just as I say that, ball goes straight into a marker, and instead it's South that comes away with it. Pavlu plays it back to Irwin. Irwin was looking for Bradley Norton, getting high, but it's going to sail into the Cannons dugout for a throw-in.
Yeah, you talked about the Queensland influence on this fixture. Luke Pavlu, Marshall, Daniel Clark as well, another one. Pierce Clark, I'm not too sure if he's a Queenslander, but he's definitely played in Queensland for the now defunct Far North Queensland Heat.
As we now, once again, Almazi on the ball.
And in terms of one of the best footballers at this level to come out of Queensland, Tyson Holmes, who for a number of years was dominating the scene up in Queensland with Sunshine Coast Fire FC up until his move to Victoria in 2013 when he joined South Melbourne and immediately became a vital component of their first team side.
Now Guest. He's not from Queensland, he's from England. Still on the ball, however. We'll play the ball across to Fashini. Fashini, long looping ball looking for Pachowski. Getting into his more familiar attacking confines. Tries to play it across, but Karoma says no, mate. And he puts the ball out. Knowles jogging across to take it. Pachowski heading back into the middle. Once again, you can see Matthews just standing in front of Clark. Clark just gets up there and with one big paw just... Did he get a touch to it? Not sure if he did. Regardless, it's going to be another Cannon corner.
I think he got a good touch on that one, Pierce Clark. And it's always interesting to see clubs when they do have two goalkeepers who can both really be first choice. When you look at Nikola Roganovic, he's arguably been one of the best goalkeepers in the state in the last 10 years, and Pierce Clark had a good season between the sticks to Dandenong Thunder despite their defensive struggles last campaign.
Another ball into the middle this time to a top of 6-yard box. It's headed back in. However, South will clear the danger. Just was headed back into the area by Scott Robertson. Hamish Miller. You might have picked up over the microphones there his teammate Tyson Holmes calling him Hammer. Not sure if he's the most well-known Hammer Hamish in NPL Victoria. Matthews now. To nobody in particular. Will Folan decide to keep it in? He will. As we have gone 45 minutes here at Jack Edwards Reserve, despite the one-man advantage, South still looking for that first goal. So now it's Oakleigh coming forward once again. Knowles ducking and diving, trying to get a shot off. Blocked away. And the referee signals that it did last come off a man in a blue shirt.
I think with Knowles there, although he did his best to try and get a clear shot on target, he just had too many legs in front of him, and it was great defending by the two South Melbourne centre-backs, but I think he should have, in hindsight, been looking to play maybe a ball to Harry White or Joe Guest, who were well placed to take advantage of it had the ball come through to them.
And there we go, not a lot of stoppages in this one. The referee blows for half-time in a game where, well, the defining moment thus far has come not from a goal, but from the pocket of referee Christopher Hope, that 12th minute red card to Lucas Portelli when he brought down Harrison Sawyer on the break. South probably with the best of that first half, but unable to trouble the back of the net. Demir, how did you see that one?
Yeah, and even first half, despite South's numerical advantage there, I think Oakleigh were structurally quite solid. They didn't present South Melbourne with many clear-cut opportunities. I think the Harrison Sawyer one, the best one, and Salados had that half chance from distance. But ultimately, you've got to give Chris Taylor's men a lot of praise for the way that they recovered from that red card. And as to South Melbourne, you've got to want more from them in attack, and maybe they'll use the second half as a springboard for that, because Oakleigh, I'm sure the players' legs will be getting a bit more wary as the numerical advantage perhaps shows as the game extends. But ultimately, we're well poised for an interesting second half where I think both teams are going into the break quite content with the way that the opening 45 minutes have gone and what their chances are for the second half.
As the players move off the field, some of this big crowd heads maybe to the club rooms for a drink or a bite to eat. We'll leave you at half-time of this massive fixture between Oakleigh Cannons and South Melbourne. Score is 0-0. Be sure to join us on the NPL Victoria Facebook and or YouTube pages for the second half. And welcome back to Jack Edwards Reserve, NPL Victoria round 3 action as South get us going once again in a game whose biggest flashpoint has not been a shot on goal, but indeed a decision by referee Christopher Hope. A correct decision, we should add, before anybody gets angry, to send off Lucas Portelli early on in the contest after he brought down Harrison Sawyer, reducing the Cannons to 10 men. Since that time, it has been the visitors, Hellas, that have had the best of the game, but unfortunately for them, they have been unable to turn that advantage into goals on the scoreboard. My name is Joey Lynch. Thank you for joining us here for the second half of this game on the NPL Victoria Facebook and YouTube pages, wherever you are in Melbourne, in Victoria, in Australia, or around the world. It's my absolute pleasure to be joined once again in the second half by the Corner Flags' Damir Kulash. Damir, who's winning it from here?
I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I know that's a bit surprising given South's numerical advantage, but I just don't think that they've been convincing enough. And the comment that we did get through in the first half related to South Melbourne, and one of their players is, where is Peter Skapetis tonight? I didn't hear that he was injured. He still might be, but it's an interesting omission, particularly if they're struggling for goals. On the bench, of course, they've got Nick Cruceridis. The only problem with Nick Cruceridis is he hasn't scored since round 1 last year, and that was for a player who only a couple of 2-3 years ago was ripping it up for Green Gully down to wing/wide forward position, where he was attracting the A-League attention, even got himself a trial in the A-League with the Western Sydney Wanderers. So where are the goals to South Melbourne going to come from if it's not through Harrison Sawyer?
Perhaps through this man, maybe to set it up. Karoma, he was busy early and he's going to play it back in the middle looking for Clark. However, he will lose the ball. Cannon's trying to stream forward. Big collision in there, and it will be a free kick for the hosts. And perhaps on the subject of Western Sydney Wanderers, Damir, I think something has just happened. You want to give us an update?
Yeah, Mitchell Duke's header has given Western Sydney Wanderers the lead against great rival Sydney FC, and what a huge upset that could be.
Absolutely. Well, but this is the NPL coverage, so we will keep the A-League references to a minimum, but big development there in the Sydney derby as the Cannons boot the ball forward once again. South will try to clear, but Norton, under pressure, is forced instead to just settle for winning a free kick after Knowles came in and applied the pressure. Knowles there in front of Miller, goes long in the direction of Sawyer, headed back by Miller. And now it will be the Cannons' turn to throw the ball in. Goes over the head of White. Booted clear by Marshall. Irwin tries to flick it on. Can't do so. White. Harry White. It's marshalled there by Stefan Follan. The Irishman on the Englishman. Thankfully, nothing explosive happens, and instead it is just a throw-in for the Cannons. Guest bringing the ball back towards the middle of the park, trying to go around his marker, but he doesn't. And Sawyer, well, he's a striker, but he was like a central defender there, winning the ball and getting it to Salados. Now Salados has Norton on his left, Karoma on his right, the two wingbacks coming in. Karoma, not sure if that was an attempted chip or an attempted cross, but whatever it is, it's sailed over the crossbar and collected some poor old fella standing behind the goals. Looks as though he's all right. Well, at least physically. I'm not sure how his pride will be there, going back towards his mates. Booted forward by Feely, except there's nobody there, and Marshall has all the time in the world to marshal the ball. Pardon the pun. Now Folan will just play it across to Almazi, who was busy in that first half, combined often with Karoma. Marshall, as you can see, when they have the ball, South are going 2-3 at the back with their fullbacks getting forward. Norton tries to play it forward for Irwin, perhaps a bit of miscommunication, but Matthews, under pressure from Sawyer, who has been running very hard throughout this game, applying the forward press, puts the ball out of play.
One player who it's good to see has returned to Lakeside is Chris Irwin, who was a championship-winning player for Hellas in 2016. 3 seasons at Kingston, where his work rate and his technical skills in midfield and goal-scoring presence were definitely a factor in Kingston's initial stay and success in the top flight.
Indeed, had quite a lot of success at Kingston. Was their 2019 MVP. And as to be mentioned, he was in fact a youth player at South Melbourne, so good to see him back at Lakeside Stadium. That throw in there in the direction of Miller, who puts the ball out for now a South Melbourne corner. Of course, South Melbourne wearing their traditional white away kits. Oakleigh in their all blue kits. As we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, one of the Greek derbies of NPL Victoria. Daniel Clark putting a left-footed corner in. It's gone long, but Salados now on the ball, but White getting across to steal the ball from the diminutive South attacker. Chips back into the danger area. Big, strong punch coming out from Feely. Feely, and that's going to be a free kick there. Almazi just slowing proceedings down with a professional foul, and it's going to earn him a place in referee Christopher Hope's book. And Nick Feely, the former Glory player, Perth Glory player that is, has another chance to boot the ball long. And to the left flank, it's headed forward. White with the ball at his feet, but an infraction has been found in the build-up, and instead it's going to be a South Melbourne free kick and a chance to clear their lines and get something going. Haven't had any success on the score sheet yet, have South Melbourne, but they have looked comfortable matriculating the ball from defence to attack. Marshall to Almazi. He's got Karoma in front of him, who he uses. Sharp little turn there from the right back. Folan under a bit of pressure there from Joe Knowles. He'll go long. Sawyer, what a good header there from the big man. Picks out Salados. Salados loops the ball back in, looking to return the favour. It's going to come out instead to Clark. And then Oakleigh getting back and desperately clearing the danger, but it's going to come straight back from Marshall to Salados. Karoma tries to turn, can't do so. Spachowski getting in there with the challenge. Clark now. Salados goes down under the challenge. Referee waves play on. Maybe a chance in transition coming for the Cannons if they can move it quick. Trying to get down the right flank, but they can't. Miller is forced to play it back to Matthews, who plays it forward, and it's headed straight back by South. Irwin gets the ball forward for Clark. Coming together there between Clark and Matthews. Oakleigh ball.
Certainly one thing you can never doubt is the work rate of the two Oakleigh Cannons midfielders, central midfielders that is, in Tyson Holmes and Matthew Fashini. Particularly someone like Holmes, I think his athleticism and his general work rate throughout the course of a 90 are probably one of the best in the league, and that's what makes him so successful. So while they may be a man down, definitely you won't be noticing it with the likes of Holmes and Fashini in the centre of the park dictating proceedings.
And indeed, perhaps we have seen that, and that South's best joy going forward has come down the touchlines through Norton and Karoma. Karoma once again on the ball, gets it to Salados. Salados, as South have done a few times that time, putting in a cross-come shot. and it's collected comfortably by Feely. Just looped forward, asking Harry White to do something incredible. Was never really in a position to do so, and South will collect and come again. Koroma, big ball over the top, looking for Clark. Miller. No options for Holmes, and instead he's forced to go back to his central defensive pairing. Tom Matthews, you can see there, the number 2 for Oakleigh, forced to play centre-back after the dismissal of Portelli. Neither side has made a substitution as of yet. As that is a ball played in front of Norton and asking him to run, and Matthews with a crucial sliding challenge comes away with the ball. But that's a terrible back pass, and it's gone straight back to Norton. Now Irwin can break forward into space on the left. A bit of shirt pulling there from Holmes. Referee ignores it, and the cross goes long. And Pachowski collects it and plays it forward. Guest. Some South fans voicing their discontent with their side's attacking endeavours. Perhaps a bit frustrated that their one-man advantage has not turned into goals on the scoreboard. Hamish Miller seeing a bit of the ball as of late. Holmes. Guest. Immediately sandwiched by 2 players and he goes down, but play continues for Sheeny. Holmes. He's got Miller in front of him, uses him. Comes under pressure from Norton. Now Guest will turn, try to loop the ball over the top in the direction of White, but White can't come down with it. And Koroma will just watch it gently roll over the line for a goal kick for Pierce Clark. Well-travelled Pierce Clark. Salados tries to play the ball forward, gives Harrison Sawyer a chance to chase. Will he get there first? No, it won't. It will be Pachowski getting there first. And Pachowski, under pressure, gives up the corner. So now a chance for South to get forward in some numbers and use one of their tall players as the South fans behind the goals. Famous Clarendon corner, travelling today down to the Melbourne southeast, spring briefly to life. Falls out to Irwin in space. Irwin's shot is blocked away. Another bite at the cherry, but he can't make proper contact with it. Ball spills out and is eventually booted forward by the Cannons, but they've got a one-man disadvantage, so no men forward to collect the fast break opportunity. Koroma finds Salados. Men streaming forward, ignores Clark. Coming into the area, and it's just blocked away by the Cannons. Very faint touch there, but it wins a free kick taken quickly. Guest dances around Pavlu and then knocks it forward. Can the Cannons get forward quick enough to outpace the South defence? Well, it doesn't matter if they can, because Koroma's there to put a strong challenge in. Now a chance in transition for South. Salados goes down under a heavy challenge from Fashini. No quarter given by referee Christopher Hope. Matthews to Holmes. And you can see South's press once again coming forward. Guest is forced to turn. And he'll get around Pavlu eventually. White plays it back. Fashini going on a bit of a run. Can he find a man in the middle? No, he can't. It's picked up by Almazi, and then Norton heads it forward. Long ball over the top. Sawyer trying to chase it down. Matthews will intelligently head it back and allow Feely to collect. Fashini just keeps that ball in. And he'll get it back again. Miller. Looking for options in the middle. Guest makes a run. It's ignored. Holmes. Sheeny. Splays it out wide. Guest. Sustained period of possession here for the Cannons, but continuously circling around. No hint of penetration as of yet. Now Sawyer getting back to defend. Bit of a shirt pull there on Holmes. And eventually the referee will bring it back for said tugging of the shirt. Free kick now, set to be taken. Whipped in by Pachowski. Sawyer with a big boot in the way. But now you can see South Melbourne, despite their one-man advantage, has 11 men defending, so nobody there to pounce on the clearance. Miller centrally. Got the ball given away. Folan all the way back to his goalkeeper Clark. Luke Pavler. Time and space eventually closed down by White. And Lamazi. Now the game just beginning to settle into a bit of an equilibrium. Energy levels dipping slightly. Still no substitutions made. And it has just gone full time in the Sydney Derby. Wanderers for the second time this season. Downing Sydney FC. 1-0. Back to NPL Victoria action as that ball is whipped into the penalty area. But collected strongly by Clark. But that throw maybe left a little bit to be desired, and Miller steals across and takes it from Norton. White plays it into the area. Guest was arriving, but he just can't get a foot on it. Knowles was waiting there as well, but he couldn't get there. And instead it will have last taken a touch off a South Melbourne player, perhaps a vitally important touch to prevent Guest from properly teeing it up. And it will be a corner kick for the hosts.
Cause for concern for South Melbourne because, like we said in the first half, despite the numerical advantage, Oakleigh looking good.
Now Harrison Sawyer, the big man, getting back to defend. Another ball comes back into the area. It's a dangerous one. Instead punched clear, and now South perhaps trying to at least clear their lines. Holmes. It's a poor ball. Played for by Karoma for Salados. Bursting through into the space is Salados. Crowd urges him to keep going. Instead he'll try to play it to Harrison Sawyer out there on the right. Clark, back to Salados. Salados showing that techers that he has, chipping the ball up. Just once again to me, these cross-come shots from South to nobody in particular.
Too deep. His final delivery has been lacking tonight as South Melbourne are preparing to make their first substitution with Salados coming off. That was his last contribution, and Nick Cruceratis is the man who is coming on. And wouldn't he like to score a goal? As I mentioned previously, his goal drought stretches back to round one of last season. Also, a progress score from, full-time score from Jael Murphy Reserve. Port Melbourne ending up 3-0 winners over the Eastern Lions. And I know it's early days, only 3 rounds in, but you've got to fear the worst of Eastern Lions. They've lost all 3 of their opening games by a 3-goal margin.
Now appeals there for a free kick. Cruceratis immediately into the action. He did win a free kick, but then he gave a bit of a receipt to Pachowski in the aftermath. Pachowski has either copped a bit of a healthy knock or he's certainly trying to get Christopher Hope's attention. One of the two. It's going to be a free kick for South, however, so he better get his keister up.
And regarding that result at Jael Murphy Reserve, a bit similar to round one for the Eastern Lions. It was a second half fade out with Duggan, Francesco Stella and Yuda Konagai, the goal scorer. So all 3 goals coming in second half, including the last 2, scored in the last 8 minutes of the contest.
As now Pachowski still down, receiving a bit of treatment. Players getting forward for South Melbourne. Amadou Karoma, the only man back for South, aside of course from their goalkeeper, Pierce Clark. Of course, Cannons, as mentioned at the top of the broadcast, do have Ramazan Tavsanchoglu on the bench if they do need to bring on a defender. Another former South player. Former South captain indeed. And from the other game happening around NPL Victoria, Demir?
Full-time Avondale 2-0, Stefan Valentini, the second goal scorer.
Ball played in the direction of Folan. Can't bring it down, can the big Irishman? And instead now Guest maybe in transition. No. Once again, South seizing upon it. Chris Irwin. Sliding challenge comes in from Miller, but bit of confusion here. Neither side wants the ball. Pavlu just side-footed effort forward. Booted straight back by Matthews. Route 1, son. But nobody there. Knowles, the closest Cannon player in the vicinity. And instead, action can reset. So if you are just joining us after watching one of the two NPL Victoria games or at the end of the Sydney Derby, score in progress is Oakleigh Cannons 0, South Melbourne 0. Cannons operating with a one-man advantage after Lucas Portelli's... South operating with a one-man advantage after Lucas Portelli's first half red card. The young central defender bringing down Harrison Sawyer on the break. That's Almazi trying to nod the ball forward. Not Almazi, sorry. It was Clark. My apologies. Peels for a free kick from South. No doing. Now Sawyer trying to apply the forward pressure as he has done all night. Forces Feely to go long. Now it was Almazi heading forward. Sloppiness all around at the moment. Eventually it comes out to Norton on the left. Norton plays the pass and then makes the run, and he will, well, Clark attempted to feed him, but it's picked out by Miller. Knowles gets the ball forward for his teammate Fashini. Eventually now for the Guest. Now Guest coming under pressure from Folan, rides his challenge. Guest, left-footed efforts. Relatively comfortable save in the end for Pierce Clark.
Did everything right but the finish. Tame finished at the end of it, but great lead-up play there by Joe Guest. He had a number of South Melbourne defenders around him, and he did so well to get himself into the goal area and unleash a shot that ultimately wasn't successful. But more warning signs for the Hellas defence, and they need to be alert to the threat that he provides, because the gold medalist can certainly hurt you if you do give him moments like that.
Chris Irwin now on the ball. He'll get it to Norton, the South Melbourne captain. Pavlu looks back to check where White is. Comes out to Irwin once again. Plays the run of Clark. Clark attempts to whip it in, but Holmes is there to block it away. And eventually Fashini will see it out over the line for a South Melbourne throw-in. Daniel Clark. Luke Pavlu, time and space. He wants Karoma. Instead, he's going to play the ball forward. Irwin now. Eventually, it goes out to Karoma. Men arriving in the middle. Just driven in. Shot eventually. Amadou Karoma wanted to do it himself. Straight towards the chest of Nick Feely. But when you have been South and you've been playing these sort of crosses in all night that have gone to nobody in particular, perhaps you can't blame for Karoma for saying, I'll do it myself. Sheeny turns around the challenge from Sawyer. Miller. Now Miller can run into space and have it picked from Rajan. My word, Hamish Miller. The South defence parted before him. It all opened up for the right back, and he very almost spectacularly put the Cannons ahead.
And he would have most definitely been the unlikeliest of scorers, Hamish Miller. Doesn't score too often, but I guess that was a warning sign for South Melbourne that they'll need to keep in mind next time they consider giving him a bit of space.
Certainly would have been one for the scrapbook there, as now physical battle there on the attacking right flank. Cruceratus goes down under the challenge of Pachowski. But now the hosts coming forward once again. Men arriving in the middle. Can't get it in though. Under the pressure from Karoma and Almazi, but it will now be a corner kick. And you can see South getting 11 men back. They're not going to make it easy for the Cannons, who are showing signs of life here, despite being down a man. Well, played into the middle. Big back forms at the near post. Headed clear. Holmes. South appealing for offside. None given. And then Pachowski running over to take the throw. You can see thrown back in now. Can the Cannons do something with it? Guest, he's been all over the shop as of late, as you would expect from the Cannons' best player. Matthews chips the ball up. Men rise, but eventually it's going to come off a Cannons' head and out for a goal kick. As we tick over into the final 20 minutes here at Jack Edwards, still waiting for that ever-elusive first goal. Cannons looking to make it 3 wins from 3. Last season it took them 11 games to get to 6 points. This year they've done it in 2. They'd love to make it 9 tonight. South want to make it 2 wins on the bounce after beating Eastern Lions last week.
Looks like a double change coming here for South Melbourne, or no, it'll just be the one with Ben Jeeba, the man coming on for Amadou Karoma.
And change for the Cannons as well. Wade Decker is going to come on to replace Harry White, I think I saw. So Wade Decker, who, as FNR's Josh Parrish will tell you, is a hero of the church leagues.
And if he was playing in pretty much every other side across the league, it'd probably be a starting player, Wade Decker, the former Melbourne City man, who definitely had a good second half of the season.
Hold that thought, Demir, as Norton getting down the touchline, plays the ball in, but it's collected in the end by Feely after South are unable to get a man towards the ball. Jeeba, not the first appearance he would have wanted, letting the ball go past him, and he gets back well to make up for it. And you can see eager to make up for his error, trying to keep the ball in play, but it's going to go out for a corner kick. Just mentioning to me, Wade Decker, a very talented option off the bench.
Yeah, and like much of the rest of the Cannon squad, had a very slow start to 2019, but came good in the second half of the season. Oakleigh, like they were in 2018, 1 game away from making the grand final.
As you can see, Decker now, he's gone straight to Clark in the South Melbourne goal. It's Pierce Clark, the goalkeeper. Long looping ball in. Men at the back post. It was Scott Robertson that was just hovering there and forced a leaping effort in the end from Pierce Clark. He was running to and fro in his penalty box looking for an option. Eventually he just goes short to Marshall, who will go out to his captain on the left flank.
One of the things that's been interesting in the second half is that reshuffle by the Oakleigh Cannons defence. They've gone back to the 4. Hamish Miller has gone from left back to right back. Ryan Pachkowski at left back, and Tommy Matthews deputising at centre back, and I think they've all done a great job.
Now this is dangerous for the Cannons. Ball comes into the middle, but just throwing their bodies in the firing line are the Cannons to keep South out. Could have been very dangerous for them, as it was a shot taken in the end by Cruceratus, trying to prove Demir wrong. And it will, however, be a corner kick for the visitors. See men lining up on the edge of the area. High looping ball in their direction. Sawyer trying to get ahead on it. Couldn't properly direct it. Now the Cannons can break quickly, and just look at him go. Joe Guest breezes past Chris Irwin and eventually plays the ball into the middle, looking for the 1-2 with Wade Decker. You can see his frustration. And then Guest, maybe a bit of frustration as well, just bundling over his man as the ball goes out.
Chris Irwin may be a lucky boy there not to get a yellow card, because he certainly went to foul Joe Guest, but Dingsman did well to overcome his challenge, and ultimately a disappointing ending. But once again, Joe Guest, I think what he maybe in hindsight should have done, tried to play a crossfield ball, because the Oakleigh Cannons had, I think, both Knowles and Decker in promising attacking positions as they were trying to catch the South Melbourne defence off guard, but it wasn't to be.
Norton out on the left looking for an option. South forced to keep it short and on the ground. See now with White's departure, it is Joe Knowles who has gone up to serve as the Cannons spearhead. Cannon with a spearhead, we'll go with it. Jeeba trying to fill the void left by Karoma. It is going to be the Cannons that come away with it. They are showing signs of life, are the hosts. Knowles trying to turn and play it forward, but they can't. And instead it will be Daniel Clark playing the ball back to Elmazi. Once again, as it has often done in this second half, Demir South will work the ball down the left flank. Bradley Norton. Nothing doing on the left, so they'll go to the right. Elmazi plays it back into the middle for Pavlu. And under pressure, he's forced to just play it straight back to his defender. Chipping the ball over the top for Sawyer to run onto. Sawyer's trying to get there, but well shepherded. Collected by Feely, who just launches a booming throw forward, and a chance now for the Cannons to come forward quickly in transition. Peeling for a free kick, nothing given. Decker applying the forward pressure. South will just boot the ball forward. And that's going to be a free kick, and you can see the Oakleigh fans near the dugout. They were angry, to say the least. Now Norton trying to play another 1-2 with Irwin, and eventually he does get it back. Norton plays the ball in, looking for Sawyer. It's not going to find him. Went over the top of Cruceratus as well. Eventually it will trickle out for a cannon ball. Squeaky bum time here as we approach the final 10 minutes of this contest.
Crowd figure, Joey, what do you reckon? If you had a manual crowd counter here, what would you say?
1,500?
Come on, mate, it's South Melbourne. You've got to bump it up a bit. Don't you know they do that in the A-League?
No comment. No comment indeed. As South now trying to get something going with their one-man advantage. Demir trying to get me in trouble. Folan. Not going to give him the mic again. Pavlu. Just the Cannons, you can see they're dropping deep and denying South avenues to goal. South forced to just knock the ball around and poke and prod and hope some sort of crevice emerges which they can just flow into. Instead, they'll eventually turn the ball over. Tyson Holmes, clever little turn. However, his pass isn't so clever. Contest emerges and eventually it's booted out forward, only in the direction of Stefan Folan. Cannons wanted a handball. They don't get one. That's a crunching challenge from Miller. Get it to Guest. Guest tried to play it back to his defender, but instead the ball is turned over, and maybe South can exploit the space left by the Cannons right back, who's trying to get back, but he's absolutely cooked. He's been running hard all night. Eventually, it's going to be Cruceratus cutting inside. Nothing happens. Irwin just swings a left boot at it. Not sure what he was trying to do. Ben Jeeba was in the area, the 19-year-old right back, but instead it's gone out for a throw-in.
Yeah, going back to our previous discussion, come on, Joey. You're going to get the NPL metrics up. But in terms of what's going on the park, Hamish Miller having an impressive evening at right back, committed a great challenge to dispossess Chris Irwin there, who was disappointing with his final ball moments ago.
Robertson boots the ball upfield. Bit of ping pong happening in the middle there. Fashini gets it across to Holmes. Pachowski boots the ball forward to nobody in particular. Almazi looking for Jeeba. He can't go, but Almazi gets a second chance, just heading the ball forward this time. But the Cannons again collect for Sheeny. Matthews. Pachowski informing his teammates that he wants them to get forward. And he'll just loop something up high. Looking for Knowles, who wins a favourable bounce. He's got Decker in the middle, so he's guessed. Knowles keeps going. Sliding challenge denies him first time. Second time he's denied again. Perhaps should have looked for a teammate in the penalty area, perhaps, Demir.
Yeah, a bit similar to, was it Guest earlier, where he tried to fashion an opportunity for himself, or I think Knowles actually in the first half had a similar instance where there was just too many bodies in front of him, and you saw Marshall make quite a good challenge there to block the ball away and force it away from danger. So I think while the defending has been solid tonight, the decision making in the front third hasn't always been the best.
We are, of course, rapidly running out of time for one of these two sides to figure it out in that final third. Score remains 0-0. Neither side have recorded a draw as of yet in 2020. Norton screaming for the ball. Eventually it'll come to him by way of Folan. Guest getting back to defend. Forces it back in the middle to Irwin. Clever little flick on Sawyer, trying to play the hold-up man. Can't do so. Sprinting back to try to make amends. Guest. Knowles frustrated with the service. Wanted something in front of him to run onto. Cruceratus out on the left. Norton trying to play the ball out to his teammate Cruceratus. Cruceratus has kept it in. I thought he had. Referee a bit tardy with his whistle. And we'll have another substitution here for South Melbourne. Third and final change. It will be Daniel Clark coming off, being replaced by Zach Bates. So another former City youth player entering the fray after the departure of Salados and Portelli.
An attacking change for South Melbourne, and they really have to go for it, because if it stays 0-0, you can't come to any other conclusion than the fact that it'll be a disappointing result for South Melbourne, given the early advantage they got with Portelli's 12-minute red card. So Bates, there were flashes and moments last year, particularly in that away win at Heidelberg United, where he showed that he's got the quality to be a really integral player for South Melbourne. But like a lot of the team, we just didn't see it over a consistent basis. And I guess in the last 10 minutes, with stoppage time included, he'll be hoping to get himself an opportunity and goal and do what his teammates haven't been able to in the preceding 80 or so minutes and put the ball in the back of the net.
Well, Zach Bates also battled hamstring injuries last season. Has been one of the unfortunate regularities of his career. Also battled injuries when he was in the City Academy. Held him back when he was competing with the likes of Daniel Arzani and Rami Najjarine, Mouni Najjar, and even teammate Jerry Salados and Heidelberg's Lucas Derrick. Now, can he prove himself the hero for South Melbourne late in this one? South, who will have a free kick here on the attacking right flank.
And they've got a good portion of their fans behind the goal over there, and I'll tell you what, if they do score this, their fans will go wild.
Indeed, perhaps absolute scenes, as they like to say, as Bradley Norton wanders over. It looks like we will get an in-swinging left-footed free kick here, if indeed it is the South Melbourne captain to take it. As Irwin limps off. As we mentioned, South no more substitutions to make, so they'll want to get Irwin back out there. can see there the biggest man in the box is Harrison Sawyer. All 195 centimetres of him. Norton's free kick towards the back post, rising! Marshall just can't bundle it over the line. South fans calling for a penalty for a handball, and if you are going back over that several times to see if it was a handball as a South fan, let us know in the comments.
I think it would have been harsh to call that a handball if it indeed at all there was contact with the hand. I think there might have been contact with the upper arm / shoulder. Not sure about a hand though.
Benjiba plays the ball into the middle, no doing, but they'll come again, Will South. Eventually. Good forward pressure there from Decker. Ball booted forward by Feely. Sorry, in the direction of Knowles, who was applying the forward pressure there earlier. Joe Knowles, 23-year-old, can he inspire Oakleigh to life? Or will it be South Melbourne's 23-year-old attacker, Harrison Sawyer? Chris Irwin now on the right flank. He can't get anything going except win a corner for his goal kick.
And he is limping, so you can only imagine that he's struggling. And if he was to go off, we're back to 10v10. So perhaps Oakleigh's night might end up with an unlikely winner.
Perhaps, although we do see Cannons falling over with cramp as well.
Difference is they've got the changes to make, and Chris Taylor, notoriously in the past year or so, has developed a reputation for throwing in subs in quite late, if at all, because there were many instances last year where we perhaps didn't see any changes made until the 90th minute, or no change made at all, which is quite unusual in modern football. It was very common, of course, back in the day when substitutions were first introduced, but nowadays I think it's the norm that clubs, regardless of result, throw all three of their substitutes out.
Chris Taylor, maybe the old school approach, making his substitutes sweat on that appearance bonus.
I'm surprised you haven't drawn any comparisons to Brexit football of the Brisbane Roar that you do with the A-League, because, you know, not Knowles, but Guest, White and Pachkowski got a Brexit front line there.
No comment as Bates tries to bring it down to Sawyer. Can't do so, but Sawyer getting across. Cruceratus just still going, eventually comes out to Sawyer. Jiba on the right. Can't find Bates, but Bates gets a second bite of the cherry, coming inside. Desperate defending by the Cannons. It's cleared out eventually. Pachowski just knocks the ball forward to nobody in particular. Knowles will give chase. Marshall out to Almazi. Now Almazi first to work under pressure from Knowles and Guest. But South work the ball out. Folan trying to get it to Bates, but coming across strongly is Tom Matthews. Stefan Folan again, what can he do? Left-footed crossfield pass in the direction of Benjiba. Can't get a ball in. Goes into Pachowski. Second bite of the cherry is also denied by Pachowski. Hellas throw in. Anticipation builds with the Clarendon corner behind the goals. Jiba trying to get through, can't. Battle there on the right flank. We've got less than 60 seconds of regular time to play here at Jack Edwards Reserve. Score remains Oakleigh 0, South 0. Port Melbourne and Avondale are the winners tonight. Still searching for a winner in this one. Big coming together. Play on. Folan looks up, just plays it centrally. Gets it back. Can the Irishman inspire his side? Instead plays it into Norton, who's first to turn around one and then slide in, but he can't find a teammate. And you can see Oakleigh now, just desperations, knock it long. 4 minutes of added time being signalled here by fourth official Adam Bavkar. South will come again, trying to play it forward for Sawyer and Jeeba to chase. Bachowski just puts it out. Jeeba perhaps teeing himself up for a long throw in. Feints it out and eventually goes short to Pavlu, gets it back. Combination play from South. Pavlu, left-footed, looping ball in. Cruceratis was there. However, so was Nick Feely. Nick Feely boots the ball long. Knowles can't bring it down under pressure. Gets a second go at it, but goes down under a challenge from Norton, and Norton comes away with it. Chris Irwin bursting into space. Tries it for Sawyer! Can't get a proper touch on it. Can the big number 9? Irwin bursting forward, puts it on a plate for him. Just mistimes the final touch, and that could have been it for South.
Chris Irwin did so well there to fathom that opportunity, and Harrison Sawyer, it just hasn't been his night. You can't be expecting to come up against the likes of Eastern Lions every week, and with the Oakleigh Cannons defence stretched, he should have done a much better job there. I think he was fighting a losing battle to try and get clean contact on that ball, just couldn't get it, and ultimately showed with that finish.
So will that be South's final chance to take something from this game, or will they create another opportunity? Or perhaps it will be the Cannons as Tom Matthews just fires the ball forward. However, Knowles can't escape the pressure, and South now on the ball. Folan forward to Norton. He's got Cruceratis in front of him. Instead, he's forced to go central to Pavlu. Back to Folan. This isn't going to work for South. They need to get forward in a hurry. Elmazi can't keep it in. Frustrations. You can hear the frustrated groans from behind the goals from the South fans. We've gone 47 and a half minutes in this second half. 90 seconds remaining. Sawyer coming back. Jeeba. His touch is blocked. He was looking for Bates. Ball instead goes into touch for a South throw-in. Long throw-in this time from Jeeba. Sawyer can't flick it on. And eventually it's going to come off the big number 9 and be a Cannon throw-in. Do the Cannons try to create something, or do they just kill the clock? They've held on for so long with 10 men. Physical challenges coming in there.
The score remains the same. It's a good opportunity for Hume City tomorrow night to be the only side to emerge out of round 3 with a 100% record.
Indeed, Hume top of the league entering this round. Norton whips a ball in. Sawyer rises but can't make proper contact. Jeeba cleans it up. He's got Bates in support. Bates is used, but a strong challenge comes in. Could that be it? Just over 20 seconds remaining now. Knowles. He's dispossessed by Almazi. And Almazi wins a free kick. And at this point, if you are South, this is likely to be the final kick of the game. Everybody's got to get forward. Pierce Clark doesn't look like he's got the appetite for it in round 3. That's it. We have gone 4 minutes of extra time here, so we are now at the mercy of referee Christopher Hope. So South have to get players forward. Oakleigh have everyone back to defend this. Ball is just, it's a poor free kick, and that should be it, and it is it. So Oakleigh Cannons, 10 men Oakleigh Cannons hold on for a 0-0 draw here at Jack Edwards Reserve against visiting South Melbourne. Yeah, to hear the boos ring out at the end of the game. South fans wanting more from that one. They had their chances, particularly towards the very end of the contest when Chris Irwin put it on a plate for number 9 Harrison Sawyer, who just couldn't slide forward and get a shot in on target. So points shared here. Demir, how did you see that one?
Great night of football, great crowd, yet the action on the park underwhelmed in my opinion. Ultimately, if you're South Melbourne, you'd be bitterly disappointed with the way you started the season with that home humiliation at the hands of Heidelberg, and now this one against Oakleigh Cannons. You wouldn't have had a better opportunity to grab your first victory against your rivals since 2017, and they just couldn't finish the job. Sawyer guilty of missing a couple of gilded chances, and outside of that, they really just didn't create enough. And if you're a Hellas supporter, you'd be concerned with the lack of goal-scoring opportunities that they managed to create over the course of that 90, given the fact that they had the man advantage. If you're an Oakleigh Cannons fan, you'd be quite satisfied with the way your team performed. They were resolute in defence, and ultimately all 10 players did the job out there, and particularly in their defence, I thought Robertson was outstanding, and also in midfield, Holmes and Fashini, the ex-South men, Marshall did well. Matthews and Miller also had outstanding nights. So ultimately for the Cannons, their unbeaten start continues, contrary to their start last season. So Chris Taylor and his side will be delighted. South Melbourne, I think there's a lot of soul-searching in that dressing room that needs to be undertaken, because if they keep performing like that, they won't be nearing anywhere near the top 6.
As you see the South players heading over to acknowledge the travelling fans, Oakleigh Cannons will play the 4th game of their 5-game homestand to start the season next week when Altona Magic come to town. South Melbourne, this the first game of their annual Grand Prix exodus, will next week head for a local derby against Port Melbourne in a fixture that should be a good one. But from tonight here at Jack Edwards Reserve, a result that neither side perhaps will be happy with. The score has been Oakleigh Cannons 0, South Melbourne 0. Joined by Demir Kulash, I've been Joey Lynch. Thank you for joining us on the NPL Victoria Facebook and YouTube channels. A reminder that you can catch every game of the NPL Victoria season, every under-20s game, every NPLW game, one select NPL2 game and one select NPL3 game across Football Victoria's social media channels throughout the season. But for now, goodbye.